It's not the sellers of goods who determines how much these goods can be sold for. It is the market. In other words, it is the buyers and not the sellers who determines how much a product can be sold for. Let's say, for example, that a man or a woman selling apples believes that his or her apples should be sold for $10 each, but the market, having looked at these apples, decide that you know it is willing only to pay $5 each for the apples. Now, should this person wants to survive in business, this person would necessarily force to reduce the price of the apples to $5 each. Now, it is the same thing when it comes to a person's SMV. Now, what is SMV? SMV is a person's sexual market value. Now, a person's sexual market value is the quality of mate that this person is able to attract, who is willing and ready and able to commit to this person. Now, it is not the individual who determines his or her sexual market value. It is that pool of candidate to whom this person would want to attract. Now, it is very important to understand that that which increases a man's sexual market value may not necessarily increase the sexual market value for women. Why? Because men date women for different things, women date men for different things. Let's say, for example, a man decides to buy a new home, a Mercedes or a BMW. This, of course, will increase dramatically the man's sexual market value. But for the woman, it may factor very, very little. Let's look at this scenario, for example. Tall women like men who are taller than they are. All women like tall men. Tall men are few. Therefore, the taller a woman is, it becomes more difficult for that woman to find a partner. Similarly, successful women like men who are more successful. All women like successful men. Successful men are few. Therefore, the more successful a woman becomes, it becomes more difficult for her to find a suitable partner. Very plainly, for every woman who owns a house, the chance of that woman living alone in that house with some cats, some dogs, or being a single mother is very, very high. Why? Not because it is a bad thing for a woman to own a house, but simply put, men do not date women for their houses. And also, the more successful a woman is, it becomes more difficult for her to become the kind of woman who men find attractive. For example, men look for traits like agreeability, being able to nurture, to be a good listener, to be kind, to be supportive. And the more a woman has, the more difficult it is for her to become these things. Now, the solution is, provided that woman wants long-term partnership, long-term romantic partnership, it is very important for her to get married in her youth. A woman should find her partner when she's young. Form partnership with this man. Own a house with this man. And this house becomes both you and this man. Now, if it is, and many women today are choosing this route to delay family, to pursue independently home ownership, building of careers, economic advancement, a woman should be assured that these success, having attained these accomplishments, they may likely factor very little in increasing her attractiveness or her sexual market value. Simply because men do not value these things in women. So, woman, my suggestion is to marry young, to find that partner in your youth. Understand that relationship will go through lots of ups and downs. One of the most important thing about a long lasting relationship is that it swings between rapture and repair. And as long as both of you decides to hold on, you will make it through. But it's very important for a woman to know that if she wants to be this hyper independent woman who owns things by herself, independent of a man, then she must be able to balance her accomplishment with keeping these traits that increases her sexual market value. In other words, those traits which men find attractive in women.